Hello everyone, Andrew here, and today there is going to be another pickup video, although I really like this pickup video. I mean, I like all of my videos, but this one is pretty cool because I've actually come across some things recently that I haven't seen at thrift stores in quite a while. I mean, like, many years ago, these are kinds of games I would see on a pretty much weekly basis. But recently, my pickup videos, there's been a lot of PlayStation 2 and Xbox. This video will have a little bit of PlayStation 2, but there are actually quite a few games from consoles that have probably showed up in my pickup videos just a very small amount. Such as the very first thing that we're going to look at, which is Sega Master System. I mean, I haven't seen Sega Master System games at thrift stores in a very long time, but this week there were actually quite a few of them there, and pretty much all of them are complete, and the cases are in very nice shape too. I mean, it's not like some of them would just like fall apart when you open them. They're very good condition, and there were even more than what I got, although I had a few of them, so I didn't pick all of them up. But anyway, to start off, let's look at the Master System games, and the first one is Wonder Boy. Which is pretty cool. I really like collecting Master System games. I usually don't go out of my way too much, like buy them off eBay or anything like that. But if I see them at thrift stores, I definitely love to grab them because, I mean, I don't know, I just think that Master System games are really cool. Even the cartridges are really bizarre. They're really rectangular. No nice picture or anything on them, unfortunately, but this has the name, and overall, I don't know, Master System's a really cool system, but I just don't see it at thrift stores like I used to. Fun fact, the very first console I ever bought from a thrift store was a Sega Master System. That was actually kind of what got me into collecting. I walked into a thrift store one day, and on the shelf, they had a Genesis, a Master System, and there was like 5 Master System games. So I picked up the Master System in the games. I thought it was really cool, and then later on I actually went back for the Genesis too. So I don't know why I didn't pick up the Genesis at first. But yeah, it's just kind of a history lesson of Andrew and collecting. The funny part is I don't remember why I actually went into the thrift store in the first place. Because I didn't go in there thinking I was going to find video games. I think I was looking for something, but I don't remember exactly what it was. But I found video games, and ever since then, I've been going to thrift stores to see if I can find video games. Anyway, moving on, we have Sega American Pro Football for the Master System. We have Great Golf. There's a whole bunch of sports games for the Master System that start with the word great. I think I have, this might be the only one that I have in the case, although I know there's like Great Basketball and Great Baseball, I believe. But I think Great Golf is the first one I've actually have in the case. I might have one of them in the case. I don't 100% remember. My Master System collection isn't very big, although it's something, like I said, I don't find it super often, so my brain kind of sometimes forgets what I have for the Master System just because I haven't thought about it in a very long time. Hang On and Safari Hunt bundle combo, both of them on one cartridge. It's pretty much the Mario and Duck Hunt of the Sega Master System, except it's nowhere near as fun as Mario and Duck Hunt, in my opinion anyway. Maybe there are people out there who love Hang On and Safari Hunt. Anyway, we have World Grand Prix. It doesn't really say what the Grand Prix of it is, but you can obviously assume that it's racing based on the image on the front there. And now we have 2 card games for, for the Master System. The card games are really neat. They're very much like TurboGrafx games, as instead of having this big honking cartridge, if I can ever get it out to show everyone, all you have, and it comes with a nice little protective case, is this little teeny tiny card. And the Master System was really interesting because it gave you the option to put the cartridge in the top or kind of a card in the front. So yeah, for some reason they decided to put some games on cards instead of cartridges, and then when you get this, you just put the card in and you can play the game. I'm not really sure what made them to decide what to put a game on, what the decision process was of should it be a card game or should it be a cartridge game. I'm not 100% sure of the differences between the games on cards and the cartridges either. I know that the card slot was good for things like the 3D glasses, which the 3D glasses would plug into the card slot, and then that way the normal game could still plug into the cartridge slot, but I'm not really sure why they decided to kind of go the card route. I mean, it is cool to have some of the games that are compact and you can carry them around in your pocket when you're going to friends' houses and stuff like that, but I just don't really understand why they did the cartridges and the cards. Always kind of been one of those things I've wondered about, and I could probably easily find out by looking it up on Google, but I just kind of haven't remembered to do that. And the last game for the Master System, which is also a card game, is Transbot. It's really funny with the card games. I mean, when you look at the Master System games, for the most part, have very, very simple case designs. It's just like a grid with a random picture on front. And the card games is just pretty much someone holding the card. I mean, you can't really get much more basic for a front picture than that. Just a picture of someone holding the game. Imagine if like, a company tried to do that today. They would be like the laughing stock of everyone. But anyway, Transbot, I've never even heard of this game before. It actually looks pretty cool on the back. And the book is in there and everything. So yeah, overall, I hardly ever see Master System games. And there were some other ones there. Like I said, I had them, so I didn't pick them up. But it's always really cool to kind of go into a thrift store and find Master System games. Because like I said, it's just been a very, very long time since I have found Master System games. And another console I don't usually see at thrift stores is the Sega Saturn with their, their massive honking cases. The Saturn games, they're not too bad, although there are quite a few sports ones. Although one thing that was really cool is a Rayman playable game preview, so like a demo disc. I didn't even know that there was such a thing for the Sega Saturn, but it's really cool. It actually almost looks like someone might have made it out of like a box or something, or it was probably originally like one of those cardboard sleeves, but someone cut it up and put it into a CD case, which is pretty funny. But anyway, I thought that was really cool to get that for the Sega Saturn, and I'm not too worried about the fact that someone cut it up. I mean, I really hate when people take boxes, like for example, this right here. Someone takes an NES box and they cut it up and they turn it into a case. I mean, that's just really annoying. But if it's just one of those cardboard sleeve things that demo discs come into, it doesn't really bother me when people make them into jewel cases, because I actually think it's nicer that way, instead of having all these cardboard sleeves that get messed up everywhere. But anyway, Rayman for the Saturn playable demo. Then we have a World Series Baseball 2. Despite the fact that some of these games, I mean, they're sports games, they're not super great, it is worth noting that the cases are in super nice condition. You usually find these cases, since they're so big and so brittle, that like the tabs that keep the front on are all broken off. But overall, the cases are really nice. So I was really happy about that too. Definitely another one of the reasons why I was very happy to pick them up. Madden 97. Again, everything very nice. Andretti Racing by EA Sports, and the last one, which is also a sports game. Fortunately, this case has a bit of a crack in it, but oh well. And it is NHL Power Play 96. Now there's a lot of. I actually have a decent number of sports games for the what's it called, the Saturn. I've always really noticed that Sega systems. I mean, of course, a lot of systems have a lot of sports games. I mean, like Super Nintendo definitely has its fair share, and all the other consoles out there. But I don't know. It's for some reason it seems like Sega. I always come across more sports games than any other kind of game for Sega consoles like Genesis. Although for other consoles, they're not, I mean, they're still common, but it just seems like Sega, their sports games are always in my face. I don't even know why. Anyway, next up is another thing that I don't usually find at thrift stores. Atari games, they used to be really common at thrift stores. Now they're but something that's always been kind of harder to find, at least for me anyway, than Atari games, is ColecoVision games. So I kind of got a small stack of them here, which I definitely had to pick up because I really like collecting ColecoVision games. I definitely find that they're more sought after and definitely not as easy to come by as Atari games, so I saw some, and I definitely had to pick them up. This, I probably have about 15 ColecoVision games already, so here's about another 5 to add to that list. And here is Smurf. It's not Smurfs, it's just one Smurf apparently for the ColecoVision. We have Mousetrap. And I've seen this game a million times on the Atari 2600 because it's really weird. Like, it's so bizarre back then how, like, competing companies made games for, like, on their competitors' consoles. Like, you'll find Mousetrap on a Coleco cartridge, but this cartridge works on the Atari 2600. It's really bizarre. But anyway, here is the actual Coleco version. Some of them have a little bit of a problem. Like this one, the label's peeling just a bit. Might try to glue that back down, and it would look pretty good. You usually don't find Atari games or ColecoVision games with perfect labels, but overall these ones aren't too bad. Here we have Looping for the ColecoVision. I have Carnival. I believe this is another one I've seen a million times on the Atari 2600, made by Sega. And we have Super Action Baseball. It's not just your regular boring baseball. Super Action Baseball. No, actually, baseball is my favorite sport. I don't think that it is boring at all. So yes, a couple of ColecoVision games. Nothing super amazing, but still, it's just really cool how I've come across some things that I've just never seen at thrift stores before. So, definitely thought that all of this was pickup video worthy. Now we are going to move on to some PlayStation 1 titles, and there are some very cool ones on the top here. Some of them are greatest hits, although like I've said in some of my other videos, I just like getting the games. I know some people who, if they saw like it was the greatest hits version, they'd probably just ignore it. But for me, my number one priority is just getting the game, and then if somewhere down the road I can get a good deal on the non-greatest hits edition, I'll probably buy that and then trade the greatest hits edition away. But for this case, I definitely had to grab it, and that is Final Fantasy Tactics for the original PlayStation. This is a game that I never had before, and I've never even played, so it will be cool to check that out. And it's the greatest hits edition, but meh. Doesn't really bother me too much. Next game, also greatest hits, but another one. I believe I talked about Pac-Man World not too long ago. In one of my videos, because I picked up another one later in the series. So yeah, Pac-Man World for the original PlayStation. Now that I have it, I can definitely check it out. Because I didn't really want to play 2 or 3 without starting at the beginning. I've always been like that, even if it's a platform or any kind of game where story might not really matter from one to the next. I always like to start at the beginning. Even just to kind of see how, like, you know, the gameplay mechanics and stuff progress as you go on. Because it's definitely, I find more fun to kind of start before all the kinks have been worked out and then kind of move on to the sequels where things are refined, rather than playing 2 and 3 and then going back to 1 and saying, how did people even play this back then? Because there were, like, improvements that were non-existent back then. So Pac-Man World for the original PlayStation. Next up, we have Worms World Party. I don't really know too much about the Worms series. I've been meaning to kind of figure out just what's up with these games, but definitely have to check that one out. And then 2 more games, which are definitely kind of not the super most exciting ones. We have Bass Landing, as well as Motocross Mania. It's kind of 2 sports games, or a sport and a racing game, I guess. I don't know, sometimes I categorize racing games into sports games. I don't know why. I guess for some reason I kind of associate racing as a sport, which I don't think that's really wrong. I mean, like, don't people consider like NASCAR kind of a sport thing? I don't know. But anyway, I know that racing has its own genre, so I probably shouldn't mix them up too often. Anyway, the next thing that we have here is a Nintendo 64 game. I'm about halfway to completing a loose cart Nintendo 64 collection, which, I mean, it's really simple to do that because there's only about, what's it called, 300 games for the Nintendo 64. So I bought 150 of them, but now I can add Wheel of Fortune to the bundle as well. I actually haven't been collecting Nintendo 64 like seriously for too long. Usually I just pick up the games, but lately I've been wanting to just get as many games for it as I can because, you know, with 300 it's not too high. I just want to see how close I can get to that, although I know there are a few like the Blockbuster exclusives which are really difficult to get. Well, some of them anyway. Like I have Razor sealed in the box. It's not too hard to come by, like on eBay for only a couple bucks. But I know there's ones like, what's it called? Clay Fighter, 63.5 Sculptor's Cut. Like I know that one's really, really pricey. So who knows if I'll ever get all of them, but again, just like NES, I think it's really fun to kind of see just how close you can get before it kind of comes to a halt. And NES is pretty much in that case, although it's because I just haven't been finding NES games anywhere lately. Not like in the good old days. I mean, every time I walked into a thrift store, there would at least be a Mario and Duck Hunt. Now you don't even see that very often. Anyway, next thing up here is an NES game, and this is an NES game that I already have. I mean, it's funny, I'm just going on about NES games. What am I saying? Although it's not a new NES game, although I did not have it in the box, and even though the box is in kind of terrible shape, I thought it was still cool to get because it is 4-in-1 Quattro Adventure, and yeah, it's not in very nice shape. I have a whole bunch of peeling on the back there. Someone must have put a piece of tape on it. It's really beat up, although the coolest part about it, I think, is that it has all of the paperwork with it. Now, I really like getting NES games complete in the box. I think that's a lot of fun. But unofficial games are usually even more awesome because of just like the weird posters you get with them and unofficial instruction guides, and the guys who made them usually think that they're so great, so I mean, they put their picture and stuff in the back. I don't know. I always find it funny to get unofficial games complete in the box. Another one to add to my collection is 4-in-1, 4-in-1 Quattro Adventure, and it is, of course, one of those really bizarre gold cards. And because it has the box, it's actually been kept in quite nice shape, maybe even nicer than mine, so another benefit to getting that complete in the box. Next up, we are going to move on to the PlayStation 2, like I said, there was a little bit, although for people who know their PlayStation 2, you will know what is up with those blue games at the bottom. Well, either people who know their PlayStation 2 or people who are not from North America or people who are already really into collecting will probably know what's up with that. But anyway, first game, Call of Duty the Second, before it was super massively popular. I mean, I guess it was probably popular at this point. I mean, it must have been in order to get to the point where it eventually just really took off somehow. But yeah, Call of Duty 2. I really didn't know too much about the series back then. I remember the first Call of Duty I really heard widely talked about was Modern Warfare 2, and then from there, just the series never stopped, and now it's coming out on a yearly basis. But this was back before then. So Call of Duty 2 for the PlayStation 2. That's pretty cool. Next up, still sealed, and even has the French instruction book on the back, like I said that Canadian games usually come with. They'll usually have kind of a low quality seal over top of the game that already has the high quality seal on it, and the low quality seal is because you might be able to tell that it's a bit thicker, is because there's an extra instruction book on the back which has the French instructions in it. But anyway, it is a sealed copy of Backyard Sports NBA Basketball 2007, so that is pretty cool to have sealed. Next up, we have Without Warning. Looks like some kind of shooting game made by Capcom, so it may be worth checking out, because I'm not going to get into the whole Capcom thing, but yeah, made by Capcom back then, so going to have to check that one out. Next up, we have MX 2002, a racing game. After that, we have Oni. I've seen this game before, actually. No, actually, that's right. I saw it at a thrift store once, but I opened the case and it was empty. But anyway, now I have it complete, which is pretty cool. I really like the effect that it has on the front there, kind of, depending on where you look at it, kind of changes colors. That's pretty cool. Next up, we have EA Sports NASCAR Chase for the Cup 2005. So see, even EA Sports is calling NASCAR a sport. I don't know, anyway, so NASCAR 2005. And then now, we get to the blue games, and it's really cool. I actually really like it. European or PAL PlayStation 2 games came in blue cases rather than the black, or yeah, it's pretty much black, gray, black cases that North American and Japanese came in. So I have 4 European PS2 games here, which is really bizarre, because I find that European games are PAL games. I always call them European, even though it's kind of PAL. I find that they're even rarer than Japanese games here, because usually European games won't work on your consoles at all. Meanwhile, Japanese games, usually with a converter or some other kind of easy modification, you can get them to work on in North America. But so 4 PAL games, which is really neat. The first one, Crash and Burn. Next up, we have Need for Speed Carbon. After that, Gran Turismo 4. You can kind of see that obviously whoever donated these was really into racing games, because everyone's favorite racing game and the last PAL PlayStation 2 game, Pirates of the Caribbean, The Legend of Jack Sparrow. I mean, I could just play this racing game all day. No, so I don't really know where this one falls into the mix with the rest of them, but still very cool, considering, like I said, PAL PlayStation 2 games are definitely not something that appear here very often. I don't know if maybe someone moved here and then they realized that their PlayStation 2 wasn't compatible in North America because of the plugs and all that, and then their games didn't work on North American PlayStation 2, so they just dumped them at a thrift store. I have no idea, but anyway, I thought that it was really cool to come across these. One thing I do not like about the European PlayStation 2 games is the fact that the ends always lack detail. At least every European PlayStation 2 game I've ever seen has always just had a bland kind of end with black writing on it. Meanwhile, of course, if you look at North American or Japanese games, they usually have, kind of like a cool design. It's not always just white with black writing on it. It's usually kind of something neat anyway. There's a few games that are kind of boring like this. But overall, that's probably my one pet peeve with the PAL Japanese games. PAL PlayStation 2 games. It's just the way that they do the end like that. Anyway, one more kind of console to look at, and that is the GameCube and the Wii. 1 Wii game and 2 GameCube games. So, start off with the GameCube games. The first one is Custom Robo. I know that this is actually a kind of sought-after GameCube game. It's not super rare. although I never had it before, so I was really happy to get my hands on it. I like how it's new for 2004. I remember I actually went over to a friend's house. It's so not really a close friend, someone who I knew from school, so I kind of talked to them, although these days I haven't really been in contact with them. I remember I went over to their house, and probably around 2004 they had it, and I played it. And it was a pretty cool game, actually, although since then I haven't played it, so it's cool to pick it up, and I'll definitely have to give it a shot and see if it is like I remember. Next GameCube game is Batman Begins for the GameCube. And the final game, and it's a Wii game, but I thought it was kind of funny just because I've never had it before, and it was at a thrift store, so I got a really good deal on it. And that is Wii Music. I'll probably never really play it, but I mean, it's just one of those games in the Wii series. Really kind of an outcast. I mean, they tried to release this music game while Rock Band and Guitar Hero were like the biggest thing, and it just really bombed. At least that's what I saw anyway. I couldn't go into a store without seeing like 50 of them on the shelf that looked like they had never been touched. So anyway, I always thought it was really funny, and like I said, I saw it at the thrift store, so I picked it up just for fun. Maybe I'll have to try it out and see if it just if it is just as kind of as everyone says it is. I never really got into the big music game phase with Rock Band and Guitar Hero and all that anyway, so if I didn't like those, I might not like Wii Music at all, but we'll see. I still remember the year they announced it at E3 and everyone got up on the stage pretending to play their trumpets and the guy with the drums. Good times of watching E3. But anyway, that is all that I have picked up in the last while. Like I said, a lot of things for a lot of consoles that, I mean, you don't normally see too much of. So like, yeah, the Master System, ColecoVision, Sega Saturn, PAL, PlayStation 2 games, so some cool stuff, and I really hoped that everyone enjoyed seeing it. But anyway, I think that I hope I haven't forgotten anything. That is all that I wanted to talk about in this video. So thank you very much for watching. Hope that you enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time for something different. So thanks, and see you later.